Yesterday's accounting undermines production today and future growth for your business. And I know it sounds like a bold statement, so let me explain what I mean by this and how you can actually use yesterday's data to improve today's production. Welcome to our channel, the place where future billionaires come to get inspired. In our work with manufacturers, we see time and again how companies struggle to find the right balance between planning and execution. The endless hours spent preparing forecasts, budgets, rolling forecasts, reforecasts, and then the annual budget cycle all over again. Yet most of these planning efforts do not result in any tangible benefits to the company. And even worse, they often end up undermining production in the process. This is because yesterday's accounting data often paints an inaccurate picture of today's operational reality, which then leads to poor decisions that ultimately undermine production goals. Let me illustrate what I mean with some real-life examples. For example, many companies rely on last year's sales figures to inform this year's production plans. But if the products have a long lead time, such as 6 months or more, then using last year's sales data might not be the best idea. Instead, what you need to do is look at actual sales from the last 2 or 3 months to get a better sense of current demand. Another example is relying on yesterday's material costs to set this month's production targets. Again, if material prices change frequently, as they often do in today's economy, this could lead to unnecessary stockouts or excess inventory. What you should do instead is look at recent purchase orders to determine the cost of materials and make sure your production targets are aligned with the current price points. And finally, perhaps one of the biggest culprits of all, relying on outdated labor data to set production targets. This can be especially problematic in industries with high turnover rates, where staff costs are a significant portion of the overall expenses. For example, let's assume your company has 100 employees, but 20% of them have been with the company for less than 3 months, and another 20% have been there for less than 6 months. So only 60% of your staff have been working there for longer than 6 months? Now, if you're setting production targets based on last month's labor data, you may be in trouble. Why? Because it's likely that the new hires have different skill sets and productivity levels than the employees who have been with the company for a longer period of time. Let's take a closer look at this issue. In the apparel industry, for example, new workers are often trained to operate industrial sewing machines, but it takes time for them to learn how to use the equipment efficiently. Similarly, in the furniture industry, assembly line workers need to be trained on how to assemble the products correctly and quickly. On average, it can take anywhere from 4 to 12 weeks for new hires to reach full productivity. If you don't factor this into your production target setting process, you could end up with missed deadlines and unhappy customers. So how do we fix this? We begin by looking at what we call the DNA of your company. Your DNA consists of 3 main components: people, processes, and technology. Each of these components plays a crucial role in your company's performance, and they all need to be optimized to ensure smooth production. Let's start with the first component, people. You can't just look at headcount when trying to determine how many people you need. Instead, you also need to assess the skills and experience of your workforce. As we mentioned earlier, new hires need time to get up to speed, so you need to factor in their ramp-up time when setting production targets. You should also consider things like absenteeism, holidays, and other factors that can affect attendance. Processes are the second component of your company's DNA. These are the workflows and procedures that your company follows to produce its goods. Streamlining your processes can significantly improve efficiency and reduce waste. Consider implementing process mapping to visualize your production processes and identify areas for improvement. Process mapping allows you to break down complex processes into simpler steps, making it easier to identify bottlenecks and areas for optimization. Once you've identified areas for improvement, you can take action to streamline your processes and make your production more efficient. Finally, let's talk about technology. Technology can play a big role in improving production efficiency. Implementing the right software solutions can help you automate tasks, track progress, and make better decisions. Consider investing in a production management system that can help you plan, organize, and control your production processes. A good production management system will provide real-time visibility into your production operations, allowing you to track progress, identify bottlenecks, and make informed decisions. So here's the key takeaway. Don't just rely on yesterday's data to inform your production decisions. Take a closer look at the 3 components of your company's DNA: people, processes, and technology, and optimize each of these to ensure smooth production. Now, let's go back to our original scenario where we talked about the impact of outdated labor data on production targets. Let's say you the CEO of a furniture manufacturing company and you resetting production targets for the month. You re-looking at last month's data and you notice that your assembly line workers produced an average of 10 chairs per hour. You decide to set the production target for this month based on this number. However, you do take into account the fact that several new hires have joined the team and are still in the training phase. As a result, you set an overly ambitious production target for the month. When the production team is unable to meet the target, they become demoralized and frustrated. They feel that the target was unrealistic and that they were set up for failure. Additionally, the company incurs extra costs due to overtime payments and rushed orders. Eventually, the news of missed deadlines and unhappy customers reaches top management, who launches an investigation into the matter. The production manager is called into the office and asked to explain what went wrong. The production manager explains the situation, outlining the challenges associated with the new hires and the impact it had on production. Top management listens patiently, but they are not convinced. They point out that the production target was based on last month's data, which showed an average of 10 chairs per hour. The production manager tries to explain that this number did not take into account the ramp-up time of the new hires, but his argument falls on deaf ears. Top management is disappointed and decides to replace the production manager with someone who can deliver better results. In this scenario, the production manager was in a tough position. He knew that the production target was unrealistic, but he was unable to convince top management otherwise. Ultimately, he pays the price for this misunderstanding and is replaced. In contrast, imagine if the production manager had used a more accurate and data-driven approach to setting production targets. He could have used real-time data on the productivity of the new hires and factored in their ramp-up time to create a more realistic production plan. In this scenario, the production manager would have been able to avoid the pitfalls of relying on outdated labor data and maintain a positive relationship with top management. To truly improve production, you need to look beyond just numbers and take a deeper dive into the factors that influence production. By doing so, you can set realistic production targets, optimize your processes, and make better use of your resources. It's not enough to simply rely on yesterday's accounting data. You need to take a proactive approach to production planning and management. One way to do this is by embracing the Toyota way of production. The Toyota way is a production methodology developed by the Toyota Motor Corporation that focuses on continuous improvement and customer value. One of the key principles of the Toyota way is Gemba Walk, which involves regularly walking the production floor to observe and interact with the production process firsthand. Gemba walks allow you to identify areas for improvement and make adjustments as needed. By embracing the Toyota way and conducting regular Gemba walks, you can ensure that your production process is always running smoothly and efficiently. Take the case of a furniture manufacturer that implemented the Toyota way. After conducting a Gemba walk, the company's leadership team noticed that the assembly line was stopping frequently due to a lack of materials. This was causing delays in production and missed deadlines. To fix this issue, they implemented a Kanban system that ensured that materials were delivered to the assembly line just in time for use. As a result, production delays and missed deadlines became a thing of the past. Another example is a lighting manufacturer that reduced its lead times from 12 weeks to 4 weeks by implementing the Toyota way. The company conducted a Gemba walk and discovered that there were long lead times for certain components, which was slowing down the production process. By identifying these bottlenecks, the company was able to take action and reduce lead times, ultimately improving customer satisfaction. By following the Toyota way and conducting regular Gemba walks, this lighting manufacturer was able to identify areas for improvement and make changes that resulted in a significant reduction in lead times. If you want to know more about the Toyota way and how it can benefit your business, check out our video on the subject. In conclusion, yesterday's accounting data can provide valuable insights for today's production planning, but it should not be the sole basis for decision-making. By taking a closer look at the people, processes, and technology involved in production, and embracing a data-driven and customer-focused approach, businesses can optimize their production processes and drive growth while avoiding the pitfalls of relying on outdated information.